She was broken, bleeding, abandoned on a battlefield no one survived.
The battlefield smelled of ash and silence. Lyra, 7, lay on her back in the rubble, staring at a sky that had forgotten how to be blue. The war had lasted 9 cycles, long enough for entire generations to grow up knowing nothing but the sound of detonations and the sight of crumbling towers. She had fought in every cycle. She had watched her kind fall, one by one, like stars extinguished mid-shine. And now it was her turn. Her cracked exoskin, the pale, porcelain-like bioarmor that her species grew naturally, had fractured across her left cheek and shoulder. Blue fluid, the equivalent of blood for her kind, seeped into the dirt beneath her. Her amber eyes were still open, still watching. That was the stubbornness her commander had always hated about her. You watch everything, Lyra, even things you shouldn't. She watched now. Above her, the orange sun was setting behind a horizon of broken architecture. She could hear distant footsteps, human soldiers, sweeping the field for survivors. Not to rescue them, to confirm they were no longer threats. She closed her eyes. This is how it ends, she thought. Not in glory, not in memory, just here. She heard the footsteps stop. She opened her eyes. A human stood over her. Tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in battered combat armor that had clearly absorbed years of damage. His face was half covered by a cracked visor, but she could see his jaw, tight, conflicted. His rifle was raised. Standard protocol. She was the enemy. She was injured. She was supposed to be eliminated. She stared up at him without fear. "Do it," she said, her voice hoarser than she expected. Her translation device, embedded in her throat, converted the words into his language. "I won't beg." He didn't shoot. Instead, he lowered the rifle slowly, not all the way, but enough. He tilted his head, studying her the way she'd seen humans study strange artifacts they didn't fully understand. Then he reached up and pulled off his visor. His eyes were dark brown, tired, human. "How bad?" he asked. She blinked. "What? How bad are your injuries?" His voice was low, controlled. The voice of someone used to making decisions in the dark. "Bad enough," she said. "Why does it matter?" He didn't answer. He crouched beside her instead, setting the rifle down. Actually setting it down, out of reach, which was either the bravest or most foolish thing she'd ever seen a human do, and reached into the pack on his back. He pulled out a field kit. Standard human medical supplies. Not designed for her biology. She almost laughed. "Those won't work on me," she said. "I know." He opened the kit anyway. "But the pressure wrap will. Physics doesn't care what species you are." She watched him work. His hands were careful, deliberate. There was no gentleness in them, not the soft, careful kind, but there was precision. The kind that came from doing hard things for a long time and learning not to waste motion. "You're going to get court-martialed," she said. "Probably. Your people will call you a traitor." "They've called me worse." She was quiet for a moment. Her pain was significant, but she was trained to breathe through it, slow, deep, rhythmic. She watched his face while he worked. He wasn't looking at her like she was a monster. He wasn't looking at her like she was a prize either. He was just looking at her, like she was a problem he decided to solve. "Why?" she asked finally. He paused. Just briefly. Then he continued wrapping the pressure seal around her fractured shoulder. "Because you said you wouldn't beg," he said.
She didn't understand.
She told him so. He sat back on his heels and looked at her properly, the first real, unguarded look he'd given her since he arrived. "Everyone on this battlefield begged. Every human soldier I've watched die out here, they begged at the end. For their mother. For more time. For it not to hurt." He paused. "You just looked at me. like the sky, like you'd already made peace with it. He shook his head slightly. I couldn't shoot something that brave. Lyra, 7, stared at him. In 9 cycles of war, no human had ever said anything to her that required her to think this hard. That's a terrible reason to risk your life, she said.
Yeah.
He almost smiled. Almost. I've got a lot of those. He helped her sit upright. The effort sent white fire through her side, but she didn't make a sound. He noticed. She could tell by the slight tension in his jaw, but he said nothing, and she respected him for it. Can you walk? He asked. Not far. Far enough. He stood, picked up his rifle, not pointing it, just carrying it, and offered her his other hand. She looked at it for a long moment. A human hand. The same species that had leveled her city. The same species that had killed her unit. The same hands that had built the weapons that cracked her exoskin and left her bleeding into foreign soil. She took it. He pulled her to her feet with steady, even strength. She wobbled. He adjusted his grip without comment, letting her lean against him until her legs remembered what they were for. They walked away from the battlefield together, slowly, unevenly, without a plan, as the sun finished setting behind the ruins of a world that neither of them had wanted to burn. She didn't know his name yet. She didn't know if they would survive the night. But for the first time in 9 cycles, Lyra, 7, felt something she had quietly stopped believing in. Not safety. Not peace. Just the small, stubborn possibility that the story wasn't over yet. And sometimes, she thought, her amber eyes steady on the darkening horizon, that was enough.